Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyana. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim. O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Arjuna. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O Goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters. O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Vandana. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. And now, with the grace of Lord Shri Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, let us start our reading of 6th chapter Dhyana Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And today it is going to be the 12th Shloka, 12th verse. The previous verse, 11th, that we had read, Shri Krishna had told us how one should prepare the seat for sitting for the meditation. And he had clearly told us that he has given the directions absolutely step by step. It should be a clean place. Shuchau deshe pratisthapya, having established, having prepared a place very clean. Then sthiram asanam atmanaḥ, that prepare a seat for yourself. Don't share it with anybody. Prepare the seat for ātma-viśhuddhaye, for yourself. And then how the place should be. It should not be very high. Na ati uchritam, na ati nicham. It should not be very low lying also. It should be a moderate. Maybe ground level, slightly above a couple of feet, and a nice clean place. And then prepare the seat, the asana on which you are going to sit. Prepare that asana using chaila, ajina, kusha. The cloth, the skin, and the kusha grass. Put them on one top of another. And prepare the ground, prepare the seat for performing meditation. Now, how to perform meditation? And that's what Sri Krishna is going to teach us from 12th till 15th Shloka. So today we will read the first portion of those shlokas, the process of meditation. Tatraikāgraṁ manaḥ kṛitvā yata-chittendriya-kriyaḥ upaviśhyāsane yuñjyād yogam ātma-viśhuddhaye. Tatraikāgraṁ manaḥ kṛitvā. Tatra means there, that spot, that place which you have selected, which you have prepared for sitting for meditation. Tatra ākagraṁ manaḥ kṛitvā. Mind having made one-pointed. Mind having made focused on the object of meditation. Yata-chittendriya-kriyaḥ. Having one who has controlled the chitta and indriya, the mind and the senses. Having controlled, having subdued the mind and the senses, and thus made the mind one-pointed, made the mind focused, made the mind concentrated there near that seat. Upaviśhyāsane, having taken the seat. Upaviśhyāsane is having taken that seat, what he should do? He should yuñjyād. He should practice. What should he practice? Yogam ātma-viśhuddhaye. You should practice the yoga of self-purification. Now these are all the preliminary things a spiritual aspirant who wants to become a yogi, he has to start one by one, step by step. First step is preparing the asana that Sri Krishna has told us in the 11th Shloka. Then, having met that asana, he should sit there, upaviśhyāsane, doing what? Tatraikāgraṁ manaḥ kṛitvā. Having met the mind one-pointed, and yata-chittendriya-kriyaḥ, having controlled the chitta and the indriya. You should sit there doing what? Practicing yuñjyād, yogam ātma-viśhuddhaye. You should practice the yoga of self-purification. That is the basic step that is needed to attain the ultimate the aim of meditation. Sitting there on a seat, making the mind one-pointed, restraining the thinking faculty, that is the mind and the senses, he should practice yoga for self-purification. Mind loses its innate purity to the extent it contacts objects through the senses. To the extent that the mind allows the senses to get in contact with the sense objects, the mind starts losing its innate purity. Mind at the time of birth, the mind is absolutely pure, purest of the pure. And as that newborn child, infant starts growing, it starts accumulating the influences of the surroundings, and the layers of impurity start building on the mind. And mind starts forgetting, who am I? It starts forgetting. So the moment the sense and the sense objects, they come in contact, mind starts losing its purity, and it is like the rainwater coming in contact with earth and creating the muddy situations. Rainwater, when it falls, rainwater is purest of the pure water, coming straight from the clouds. But the moment it touches earth, it touches the soil, what happens? The soil makes that rainwater muddy. The mixture of rainwater and the soil creates that muddy situation. And that's what happens when senses and sense objects, they come in contact with each other. The mind also starts losing its innate purity. And therefore Sri Krishna says here that chittendriya, one should be yata-chittendriya-kriyaḥ. One should control the mind and the senses. Focus the mind and then sit on this seat which has been prepared as told in the 11th Shloka. And then practice the act of self-purification. Practice the yoga of self-purification. Suspending the senses and resting the mind in the self is the only means to reclaim it to its original state. In that, now what to do? That don't allow the senses to get polluted with the contact of sense objects. So, bring the mind back to its original shape as it was at the time of the birth of the baby. Like bathing and cleansing the body with water, mind has to be purified by repeatedly merging in the self. It should be indrawn. The mind should be indrawn. The senses should be indrawn instead of taking them out towards the sense objects. Once the mind gets acquainted with the self, the process of self-purification starts. Ātma-viśhuddhaye, that's what Sri Krishna has used that term as. And this process is lifelong. From birth till death. This process of self-purification has to continue for a yogi. The power and potentiality of the mind increases as it progresses in self-purification. And as a person sits day in and day out on that seat, controlling the senses and mind, and making the mind one-pointed, merges itself into the self and gets into the act of self-purification. The power and potential of the mind, it automatically increases, because now there are no distractions for this mind to go out and play around, allowing the senses and the sense organs to play around with the sense objects. There is no interference, there is no hindrance, there is no outgoing tendency. Now, on this particular shloka, what Sri Ramakrishna is teaching, how it goes with this particular shloka. Milk gets easily mixed with water, but if it is churned into butter and put in water, it floats, maintaining its individuality instead. You take milk and water, mix them, and yes, they are all homogeneous mix. But you prepare butter, you extract the butter out of milk and then put it in water. What happens? It cannot mix. It will just remain on top of water. Man's mind that easily gets lost in the sense objects has to be cultivated in devotion to the Lord in solitude. Sri Ramakrishna says that the mind which gets polluted so easily when the sense objects and the senses come together, the sense organs, the sense objects, the senses, they play havoc. So when the mind gets polluted like this, it has to be time and again, it has to be taken in seclusion. It has to be taken in solitude. The same solitude that Sri Krishna has had told us in the 10th shloka, that rahasi sthitaha, remaining in solitude, ekaki, alone. So Sri Ramakrishna says, likewise, the mind should be given a chance of being in solitude and away from this intermingling of the sense organs and the sense objects through the senses and polluting the mind. Worldly contact that comes subsequent to the development of devotion to the Lord causes no harm. And then, once the mind gets to know itself, the mind gets to know its association with the Supreme, with the real self, then nothing can pollute it. Then it is like butter floating beautifully on the top of water. Even if it is put in water, there is no pollution, there is no mingling, there is no kind of a botheration. There is no kind of going down. It is just floating blissfully on the top of water. So this is what Sri Krishna has told us in the 12th shloka about how to start the process of meditation. That controlling the senses and the organs, and the mind. Controlling the mind and senses and making mind focused, one-pointed towards the self. The yogi starts the process of self-purification sitting on that asana, which is only for himself or herself, not to be shared with anybody. So that is how the process of meditation as taught by Sri Krishna starts with this 12th shloka. In the next reading, 13th shloka, we will again see how Sri Krishna tells us about the body part of it. Mind and senses, he has told us in the 12th shloka, that they should be controlled and then put to, but what about the body now? the physical, which is the instrument that the Lord has provided us to have the self-knowledge, to have this understanding of the self. So what should how the body should be disciplined to get to that state of self-awareness. That Sri Krishna is going to tell us in the 13th shloka. Till then, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Thakur, Jai Ma, Jai Swamiji.